Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and all you cool cats and kittens out there, welcome back to Timeless Sagas. In today's episode, we are going to take an exciting journey into the world of jazz, a genre that has not only shaped the music industry but has also influenced our society in ways you might never have imagined. So, fasten your seatbelts or, should I say, adjust your fedoras, and let's dive into the enchanting history of jazz. Now, before we start swinging and snapping our fingers to some smooth tunes, let's set the stage. Picture yourself in the early 20th century, in the bustling city of New Orleans. The air is filled with the aroma of Creole cuisine, and as you stroll down the vibrant streets, you hear a cacophony of sounds that seem to blend into a melody like the ingredients of the famous gumbo. This, my friends, is where our story begins. Jazz was born in New Orleans, a city known for its diverse cultural influences, including African, French, and Spanish elements. This melting pot of cultures was the perfect environment for a new musical genre to emerge, one that was fresh, unique, and revolutionary. Jazz, as we know it, was a fusion of African rhythms and European harmonies, blended with the soul and emotion of the African American experience. Now, let's talk about the pioneers of this fantastic genre. As we all know, every great story needs an unforgettable cast of characters, and the history of jazz is no exception. One of the first and most influential jazz musicians was a cornet player by the name of Charles "Buddy" Bolden. Bolden was known for his powerful, improvisational playing style, and he is often referred to as the father of jazz. Sadly, he never recorded his music, but his legendary performances have lived on through the stories and memories of those who were lucky enough to hear him play. As jazz continued to grow and evolve, it spread from New Orleans to other parts of the United States, primarily through the migration of African American populations. This led to the development of different styles of jazz based on regional influences. Chicago, for example, became a hub for jazz in the 1920s, with musicians like Louis Armstrong and Jelly Roll Morton making a name for themselves in the city's vibrant music scene. Speaking of Louis Armstrong, oh, what a character he was! Often referred to as Satchmo or Pops, Louis Armstrong was a trumpeter, singer, and actor who became one of the most influential figures in jazz history. His unique voice, powerful trumpet playing, and charismatic stage presence made him a household name, and his influence can still be felt in the music world today. Now, let's not forget about the ladies who made their mark on the jazz scene. One of the most important female figures in jazz history was the First Lady of Song, Ella Fitzgerald. With her incredible vocal range, unique improvisational skills, and unmatched ability to scat, Ella became an icon in the jazz world and beyond. She paved the way for future generations of female jazz musicians and remains an inspiration to this day. As we continue our journey through the history of jazz, we arrive at the swing era. This period, which lasted from the 1930s to the mid-1940s, saw the rise of big band jazz, with prominent band leaders such as Duke Ellington, Count Basie, and Benny Goodman leading the charge. Swing music was characterized by its danceable, upbeat tempo and became the soundtrack for a nation trying to shake off the struggles of the Great Depression. Of course, we cannot talk about the swing era without mentioning the iconic venues where people gathered to dance the night away. The Cotton Club in Harlem, New York, was one such hotspot, where the likes of Duke Ellington and Cab Calloway performed for enthusiastic crowds. The Savoy Ballroom, also in Harlem, was another prominent venue, famous for its epic dance battles and memorable performances by the likes of Chick Webb and his orchestra. As the 1940s came to a close, a new musical movement began to take shape. This period, known as the bebop era, was characterized by a focus on musical virtuosity and complex harmonies. Bebop musicians such as Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie, and Thelonious Monk sought to push the boundaries of jazz, creating a more intellectual and introspective form of the genre. Bebop was not as danceable as swing, but it laid the groundwork for future developments in jazz and is still revered by musicians and aficionados alike. The 1950s and 1960s saw the rise of cool jazz, hard bop, and modal jazz. Cool jazz, exemplified by musicians like Miles Davis and Chet Baker, was a more laid-back, melodic style that contrasted with the frenetic pace of bebop. Hard bop, on the other hand, was a return to the soulful roots of jazz, with musicians like Art Blakey and Horace Silver leading the charge. Modal jazz, pioneered by the legendary saxophonist John Coltrane, focused on the exploration of musical modes and scales, resulting in a more spiritual and hypnotic sound. As we move into the 1970s, we enter the era of jazz fusion. This period saw jazz musicians incorporating elements of rock, funk, and world music into their compositions, creating a bold and innovative new sound. Artists like Herbie Hancock, Weather Report, and the Mahavishnu Orchestra experimented with electronic instruments and recording techniques, pushing the boundaries of what was considered jazz. In more recent years, jazz has continued to evolve, with musicians like Wynton Marsalis, Kamasi Washington, and Esperanza Spalding breathing new life into the genre. Today, jazz can be heard in various forms, from traditional to avant-garde, and it continues to influence contemporary music across numerous genres. So there you have it, folks. The captivating history of jazz, a genre that has shaped our cultural landscape and brought people together through the power of music. I hope this little trip down memory lane has inspired you to explore the world of jazz further. After all, there's nothing quite like the magic of a sultry saxophone solo or the rhythmic pulse of a swinging bass line. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the history of jazz here on Timeless Sagas. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and share this video with all your friends who could use a little more swing in their lives. Until next time, stay groovy, and keep on jazzin'.